Okay, welcome all to the December 15th, 2020 meeting of the South Pasadena Mobility and Transportation Infrastructure Commission. I am Vice Chair Larry Abelson. Chair Zamzanheimer is not available, at least not as of yet. So I'll run the meeting unless and until he shows up. Leona, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Commissioner Fisher?
Present.
Commissioner Hammond?
Here.
Commissioner Hughes?
Here.
And Chair Abelson.
Here.
Excellent.
Okay, next up we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I see Commissioner Fisher is on the agenda for that. So John, would you please lead us?
All right, please stand. Put your heart over your right hand. And ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
and to the republic
which it stands,
for which it stands,
one nation under God,
one nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for
with
all.
liberty, justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. All right, next up, item 1 on the agenda is public comment. Leona, do we have any comment on items not on the agenda?
Vice Chair, we have no comments for public comment today.
Okay,
No
all right,
comments.
thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Next up, we have the minutes of our last meeting on November 14th. Those were included, the draft was included in our packet. I know I sent some comments and then a quick follow on to Leona, and I see that Leona, you sent out a revised. Does that, I'm
Yes.
assuming you incorporated my
Yes,
comments,
I incorporated yours as well as Commissioner Fisher's.
Oh, great. Okay. So if everybody could take a look, if they have a chance, if they have the revised before them, and let us know if you have any, if you are happy with the changes made, if you have anything else you'd like to add.
I would move for approval of the most current revised minutes.
All right.
A
Commissioner Hughes. Okay, so I have Commissioner Hughes moving and Commissioner Fisher seconding. Does that sound right? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, sounds like it passes. Revised minutes pass 4-0.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you, Leona, for
Thank
getting
you.
those in so quickly. That's great. Well, usually that takes about 30 minutes of our meeting, so I'm almost disappointed. But moving right along. Item 3, which is our first discussion item, transportation project status update. So is this Garrett or Tatovic?
Yeah, I'll take the lead here and kind of walk you through some of the projects here. So first project is our federal project RBA 5071 bracketed 24 North-South Corridor Intelligent Transportation System deployment project. So this project is for us to deploy an advanced adaptive traffic management system along the North-South Fair Oaks Avenue and adjacent Fremont corridor. This would be the 12 signals, 11 in South Pasadena, 1 in Pasadena. I think we've kind of went over this project a few times. This project also includes some ADA upgrades and changeable message signs. The status is we're currently working on and finalizing the preliminary engineering request for proposals for environment and design services. So we have a DBE goal of 8%, and this project has the authorization to proceed with design and construction for total federal funding for this project is $9,343,000. Project 2 is the HSIPL. Oh, go ahead.
A quick question. I know that this, I believe, and please correct me, Garrett, if I'm wrong, that part of this was going to be the traffic notification signage, I believe, on Fremont.
Right, that's the advanced warning signs.
Do we have positioning of where those are going to be, and do we need to reach out to the residents about where those are going to be placed, so they are aware? Because those are going to be, very visible, and I'm not sure where they're going to be placed and how, and where they're going to go on the parkway, how we're going to do that, and whether or not we need to advise that community ahead of time.
Yeah, there'll definitely be public outreach as part of the design process, like at 35%, 50% design plan.
Okay.
We'll do the outreach and make sure that those signs are placed in an appropriate spot. What those spots are at this time, I do not know, but
Okay.
we'll work within the project constraints and make sure that happens.
Okay.
And Garrett, is that the project being funded with Rogan funds, or is that something else?
I believe so. I'm still familiarizing myself with all the different fundings, but I believe I'll confirm with
Well,
you.
when you said 9 million, that's what came to mind. So
Yeah, that's what
I just
triggered
wanted
it for
to
me as well. So
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
no problem. The next project is HSIPL 5071 bracketed 20, which is the Fair Oaks Avenue Traffic Signal Improvement Project. And this is another federally funded program that aims to improve signal timing and provide other signal system upgrades and have enhanced safety through the aforementioned corridor. This will include various different traffic signal systems, emergency vehicle preemption, Ethernet switches, fiber hub switches, Ethernet modes, and advanced dilemma video detection, new controllers and CCTV traffic monitoring systems, as well as TPMS detectors and SMFO cable. So the status on this one is our consultant is currently working on addressing our comments and LA County's comments on the plans and specifications. So once we get those all in and settled, we will finish preparing the RFP, which we have started, which is the request for proposals for construction management and inspection services.
And Garrett, quick question.
Mhm.
Was this also where we were not able to impact the bulb outs at all?
I'll have to follow up with you, but I believe you're correct.
Okay.
Because this is more for like upgrades in the system and not physical changes to the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
If I'm-
and I'll
You
just,
mentioned ADA, so I was just concerned about maybe with the ADA that we could affect any of the bulb outs, particularly the one there at Hope. And because it's so narrow and we've had so many, so much damage on and off because that's such a narrow turn. And it's so narrow right there where the pedestal light used to be, that the trucks going in, particularly when servicing Canoe House, have just at that time, pedestal light was just literally over the sidewalk with that bulb out.
Yeah, I believe if I remember correctly, we may be able to address some of those ADA issues on the other project with the Rogan funds. But I'll find out for you.
Okay,
not-
thank you.
and Garrett, before you proceed, I wanted to just follow on Kim's comment that the list of projects for Measure R was distributed, and thank you, Leona. After our last meeting, I asked Leona to distribute that to the group so that you could see that was the list that was approved by City Council some time ago. And if you go through that letter, there's a breakdown. It's quite specific about the locations where bulb outs have been suggested for either removal or adjustment. So that's just sort of addressing Kim's point, and that is part of what we're supposed to see as part of the Measure R projects. And but that is something to keep in mind for Garrett, for what the project you just described. Is we'd hate to do ADA work on bulb outs that subsequently are going to be removed or modified. So maybe just take a look at that list.
Yeah, we'll definitely look at all these projects holistically and
Yeah.
make sure that there's no conflicts where we're spending money on a project that's going to get modified in a year or two. That's we will definitely ensure that that doesn't
Thank
happen.
you.
And I'd just like to add on, and in particular, those bulb out curb returns are quite scuffed up with tire marks. They are, some of the concrete has been crushed on the curb return, and the curb returns are so low in height, sometimes only 3-4 inches, that vehicles go up onto the sidewalk, which is not pedestrian friendly. So I would ask you to take a very holistic look for any revision of the access ramps to see if the bulb out should be revised or removed.
No problem. I will, yeah, we'll definitely take that into consideration. Okay. So next is the 2019-20 street improvement projects. This is pavement rehabilitation for Pine Street, Maple, Mill, Oneida, probably pronouncing that street, Oneida Knoll, Milan, Edgewood, Mission, and Glendon, as well as Arroyo Verde. It'll be, depending on what the street needs, it could be a slurry seal, it could be a full mill and fill, just depends on which sections and what parts of the road. And then obviously included with that would be upgrades to ADA and wheelchair ramps as per code. The status is we're working with our design consultant and they have started and they're identifying the existing structural sections as well as doing topographic surveys. So we're making progress on that project there.
Garrett, quick question. Is that the street improvement project list that's the 2019-20? Do you happen to know?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And then next is project 2019-05 street improvements, which will be the current, I think most of this is kind of wrapping up. Pavement rehabilitation, Alta Vista, Mountain View, Monterey, Arroyo Verde, Forest, and Sterling Place. Oh no, that's different. Okay. And include, yeah, so this will be proposed improvements, our full mill and fills, pavement replacement, localized base failure repairs, ADA ramps. And our consultant is working on addressing the 90% design comments on that one.
So Garrett, does it sound right that, because I know we got a bit behind on our street projects, that I think it sounds like what you just described, those are like a couple years worth of lists, and we're sort of combining them and doing them all, treating them all the same, doing them all at the same time type of thing?
They have different project numbers, but we're going to try to group them together so we get better quantity based pricing. Yeah, and less mobilization fees and dump fees and stuff like that. So we're trying to consolidate and aggregate.
Thanks. And Kim, did you have?
The question I was going to ask was, do we have a concern, and maybe I'm again being, Debbie Downer here, but do we have a concern about the overall budget and, whether we're gonna have to postpone some of this because of revenue and expenditures and city's tax revenues, et cetera? I mean, I'm worried that, one of the things the city can do is put off these projects should they need to save the money. And I just, I want to be realistic about that.
Yeah, so finance is working on finalizing a budget. And once that happens, then our capital improvement budget can be approved based on all the different, funding, the gas tax, tax revenue, property tax, how all of that affects us. We'll know, in the next coming weeks to months, kind of how that affects capital. And then, we'll definitely sit down as a group in Public Works and Finance and figure out where is best to push which projects through and which projects, will go unfunded, and we'll be very transparent with that process.
Right, because I do know that when we looked at the original, I guess it goes back to the spring when the first projection came out from COVID, and we were looking at the 2.5 million that right off the bat, they were earmarking $1 million to come out from Public Works that was going to be street improvement and all that. So I just want to make sure we don't get too far down the line and say, oh, we got to stop because we don't have the money and make sure that we can be responsible with our budget.
Yeah, yeah. And what's nice is if we only have to delay some of the projects a year and a half, you know, the design's not going to change. The pavement isn't going to fail that much more or get that much worse over that short term time. Now, where we could experience some changes would be if, you know, some of these projects get delayed years and years and years.
Right.
So we
Well,
should be okay.
Positive thing maybe is twofold. One, we're not supposed to have a bunch of rain. It's supposed to be very dry. And two, a lot of people, the driving is down a lot. So that's a benefit to us.
Except on my street.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
sure.
So of course, I was just being flip, but sort of. But to follow on to Kim's comment, I mean, these lists that we're talking about, these are streets that were programmed, for lack of a better word, and budgeted for, like, you know, 1-2+ years ago.
Right.
So, I mean, and the last thing I am is a finance expert, but my understanding is that the money is somewhere for these because it was set aside and budgeted for these at the time. So I wonder whether the count, and I'm going to get to Michelle in a moment, whether how the council deals with that. And I don't know if Garrett can comment on that or not, but if we have all these projects with millions of dollars of projects that were budgeted for and approved and programmed some time ago, don't they go forward? And the issue is just the budget for this coming fiscal year, whether there's going to be room projects, or am I being ignorant and overly simplistic? So maybe Garrett, if you have us about that, and then I'll go to Michelle.
I'm not 100% sure. So let me follow up with finance and see how that, you know, even though we've budgeted and placed money aside, I don't know if maybe that budget, even though it was set aside, wasn't placed towards another project that had priority. I don't have the institutional knowledge to comment on that intelligently. So I'll follow up and find out.
Thanks, Garrett. Michelle, please.
I was just going to add that what I remember from one of our first meetings when we met with finance about the budget, and we were looking at the list and, you know, talking about the possible shortfalls. I remember them saying that, you know, everything that was in the works now was from previous years. And so really we can't touch that money anyway. So it will be used to finish out these projects. So it'll be in consideration of future projects, what would be affected for the budget. So we should be, these existing ones that are in even from the design phase, I think would fall under those terms of, they probably were approved, you know, 2018 at the soonest. But
and I'll confirm that to make sure that that's still true.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
And sorry, Garrett, you were on your project list and I interrupted. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. And then we've got our FY 18-19 and 19-20 preventative maintenance projects, which this is the rubberized Cape Seal. And I won't go through the extensive list of streets for that one, and we'll be here all night. But this is in conjunction with our Cal Recycle grant that's going to council. The resolution is going to council tomorrow for approval for the $250,000 as part of the $987,937 that the project is estimated to cost. So we're moving forward on that one, and the $250,000 will definitely help us out a lot if we're able to get that grant from Cal Recycle. Next is our 2018 Alpha and Camino del Sol Streets Improvement Project. This one. Construction was completed as of September 30th of this year, and we'll be issuing a notice of completion to go to City Council early next year. We're just working out a couple of the final punch list items on that one, so that one is good. And then the 2020-03 sidewalk replacement ADA ramps. We're upgrading existing wheelchair ramps on Meridian between Linden and Bonita, and to do minor sidewalk repairs. We have submitted our CBDG grant application to LA County, and the total grant amount would be for $216,567. So that's the brief update on ongoing transportation projects.
Well, thank you, Garrett. Sounds like there's a lot going on, which I'm happy to hear about.
Yeah, we've got more grants and funding than we, than we have staff to oversee the projects sometimes. So we're definitely managing it very well, and we look to deliver these projects for you as soon as possible.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Michelle.
Right. Hi, Garrett, I had a question about, or to see if it was possible for the city to do on their Scoop site. I noticed on some of the local Facebook pages, somebody commenting about the striping that happened on Via Del Rey and the confusion of them feeling like it's parking striping. And I just, do you think it's possible? I know you guys are burdened a little bit with a lot to do, but to put any updates, like when any of these projects are completed, to kind of throw something on the City Scoop to educate the public about what, exciting news, this was just completed and this is what it's for. So, because there was a lot of like, oh, the street's so ugly now. And I'm sure if the residents really understood and maybe there was a link there to studies on how striping can help slow traffic and make it safer for their kids to play, maybe they wouldn't be as negative about it. So I don't know if that's something that we can include.
Yeah, I definitely have fielded a few questions from residents with varying levels of agreeability or misinformation. So yeah, as you know, the parking tees are installed as part of a traffic calming measure to help narrow the street, which encourages traffic to slow down and drive closer to the speed limit. So most people, once we've had a discussion or a few emails back and forth, they understand why an edge line wasn't used versus the parking tees. So that's, we could definitely better utilize the Scoop and some, maybe I can work with Public Works Management and see if we can get a construction page for the website that kind of gives updates.
Yeah, I think it's like, if I'm sure since you are having to respond to the emails already, that even if you get 2 complaints on something, if you take that response and then include it on the Scoop, and even if if Tamara includes us in of this is what's going on and what people, then it's easy for us, one of us, if we're on one of those social media sites that see it up, then we can direct them to the City Scoop, and it would really help with all of those things being successful.
Yeah, that's really good advice. We'll definitely take a look at it.
And I was going to say, that's a great point. And not only if we get the information out in advance through a quick scoop, people are, forewarned. And also maybe, like you're saying, it relieves the burden off of staff. I mean, I know I received a few inquiries, and it sounds like Michelle did, and maybe some others did too. And I had the answer, although I made sure I did by confirming with Garrett. But I think anything we can do, one, to relieve staff from having to answer all these individual inquiries, I think is great. And then 2, and this is a point Kim's made time and again, is that it's at least for the most part, it's good PR, right? It shows that the city is doing things to address the concerns of residents. Maybe everybody doesn't like how the city's doing it, but at least the city's doing it, right? And that's nice, for people to see as well. So anyway, thank you for that comment. That's great. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to ask Garrett or discuss on transportation projects in the works, item 3? All right. Well, hearing none, thanks again to Garrett, not only for the report, but for pushing all these things forward. It's great to see things starting to happen. Although we've had some successes last year, not only the project you mentioned earlier in Camino del Sol and Alpha, but also the infamous Signal, which I think has been a great. I've received a lot of positive comments, and I know people are quick to give me negative ones if they haven't, and I haven't heard one yet, but maybe others have. But I think all in all, it's been a success. So thanks for that. Number 4 on the agenda, mobility capital improvement projects proposed 2020-2021. So I had asked staff to put this on, not to give them yet additional work to do, but solely so that we could understand, and maybe it's too early because of the status of the 2020-2021 budget overall, but clearly we have a backlog, and Garrett and his team are working terrifically to advance those. I wanted to get a sense, and if it's too early, that's fine. What is in the works with regard to the fiscal year that we're basically in the middle of, that I think the city doesn't have a budget for yet anyway. But I was wondering if there were any particular plans or intentions in terms of what we were hoping to program for this fiscal year. Garrett.
Yes, so we, back in, I want to say March, April, we started working on drafting what we, different capital projects and what we thought needed to be done for the next 10 years. And whether they were going to be funded or unfunded, just everything we could think of, we accrued, we put together, looked at, and we've been working on it for months and months. And as you stated earlier, since we don't have a fiscal budget yet, an operating budget for the city, it's rather difficult to know where our capital outlay will be, as to what Michelle and Kim had alluded to earlier, whereas we had proposed to cut some significant portions of the capital budget, in case we needed to, based on the lack of revenue from COVID and extra expenditures. So once we have a better picture of that, we'll kind of know how we're going to move funding around for certain projects. So at this time, I can't give you an accurate update of what we would be able to accomplish, because everything is still very proposed and very, up in the ether at this point.
Fair enough. All right. Does anybody have any questions for staff or any comments they want to make on this topic before we? Kim.
I just had a quick question, and this might dovetail into obviously the 2021 work plan, but the hook ramp, loop ramp, where is that? And I know we talked a little bit about it in our last meeting, and I believe that we were out getting, we had gotten some bids, and I didn't see it outlined specifically in our plans for the work plan, but is it part of something? And I want to make sure we don't lose that, because so much work's been done on it, and we've lost our champion and Dr. Schneider right now, but I don't want it to disappear. And I know John Fisher has been the brilliant mind that had the foresight to kind of think outside the box. So I just wanted to kind of make sure, where is that on our radar, and where is it in our project list, and where is it on our work plan?
Before Garrett, before you answer, I just wanted to ask if we might be able to put a pin in that, because I think we're going to be dealing with that under item 8, if that's okay. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Garrett, was there something specific you wanted to say? I didn't want to cut you off, but I just thought it might be better. Okay.
No, but we could wait till 8. That's
okay. Okay, if there's nothing else on 4, which I guess is premature, but always good to keep in mind. By the way, do we have a sense of when we might have a budget, or is it still too early to tell for the city?
To my best knowledge, I think finance feels comfortable with something in January.
Oh, okay.
Whether that'll go to council in January, I don't have that information. So.
Okay. All right.
But they have a feeling they'll have something solid by January.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So moving on to item 5, mobility and transportation infrastructure 2021 work plan. Take it away.
So this is a draft that staff has put together for you all to look at and make comments on. If you want to write it up, add things, delete things, that's your guys' prerogative, and then we will bring it back in January for approval. So this was something based on last year's work plan and what we could see coming into the future. But like I said, this is your work plan, and we're here to help you accomplish the goals that you would like. So anything, not tonight, you don't have to, put anything on it, but as of, as it goes before, a couple weeks before the January meeting, we would need, your final drafts. And then then you would take action to approve it. And same thing with the next item, which we'll get to, which is the annual report, which is also a draft that is for, as a base for all of you to work on, and then get back to us, and then we can take the action during January.
Okay, well, that sounds like a good plan for the plan. I just thought two things. I thought, one, if folks had any particular observations or comments on the draft before us, that this might be a good time to mention them if we want to discuss that. And then two, it might be a good idea, Garrett, if you want to give us a date or a deadline by which we should submit any written comments for you to incorporate, that would be great too. Deadlines always help me, at least. So maybe we'll go backwards. Why don't can we start with the deadline first? Like, you want it like a week before the next meeting or more?
I think a week before the next meeting, and the next meeting is I was looking at the calendar, is the 19th.
Okay.
So because it's the third Tuesday. So yeah, if I had them by the 11th, I think that would be more than fair.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. So, and send them, Garrett, should we send them to you, to Leona?
Both, please.
Okay. So comments to Garrett and Leona by January 11th, like close of business?
Yes.
2021. Yikes. Okay. And sorry, Kim, I think you had some comments you wanted to share.
Things I wanted to maybe put out for consideration. It's come up, and I know it came up a couple times in the last year or so, is what is our speed bump policy? That's come up. I don't know if we need to revisit that. I don't know if we need to clarify it, because that's come up through the neighborhoods when it talks about traffic calming, and we've talked about we need to really have more clarification on what the rules are. And that also, again, going back into making sure that the loop ramp is somewhere on our work plan and somewhere so it's easily understandable and distinguishable as an element. And the other is, along with going through, which helped, I think, a lot, and maybe as Vice Chair Abelson would agree, that having the list of where the projects are and where the funding is, so that we understand where the funding, whether it's grant or the Rogan funds or whatever, so that we're real clear on where the financial support is, so that we also kind of know if it's vulnerable, would help.
So Kim, you're suggesting that the funding source be part of or referenced on the work plan?
Or maybe just a quick cheat sheet, like these are the Measure M projects, and this is where the funding is, and these are the R projects, this is the funding. You know what I'm saying? That we kind of have an idea, because we kind of want to think ahead of where potential cuts. My biggest concern right now, because we don't know it yet, the state hasn't, is what the pension requirements are going to be for the city. Because we don't know if they're going to hit their benchmarks for the projected revenue source of a 7% return, et cetera. And if not, then they're going to come back and ask for more money from the city. Last time it was extra $1.5 million. So we just need to be really cognizant, because that really can impact. And I just want to make sure that we're very conservative in our thinking and plan accordingly.
Yeah, we'll definitely take that into consideration and see what we can do.
Okay.
Thanks. Michelle?
I had similar concerns with funding and the timing of some of the items. Garrett, I know that we are up, we had addressed this in the last meeting about Metro and the reconsideration of how Measure R funds could be used. And I know that will be going up in January, I believe, with Metro, but there's a lot of shift on the board there. So I'm not sure, do you think that will be decided by the end of January? Because I know we have a staff briefing on update on projects for Measure R, but it looks like, you know, if we are able to fund a wider, you know, a lot more diversity in types of projects that we do with Measure R funds, then I would think that would affect what, you know, what we go forward with as a city, especially if we are having shortfalls in other areas of the budget. So I'm not sure about having, if we would need to move that, you know, a little bit further along and then February in lieu of waiting on the final decision for that, or if it's still within plenty of time.
Yeah, I think we could possibly move that to February just to ensure that they've had time to make their decision. And then if they have, we could always move it back. That's the nice thing about the commission agendas. We have a little more flexibility with them as long as we have enough notice for posting. So yeah, I think tentatively we could put it into February. And then if you know, they do make a ruling quickly in early January, then we could bring it back.
I think, isn't it's in February now. I think I'm just used to the way that, you know, the expediency of government that maybe even it being in February is soon. but I just want to make sure that we can get the most done, and that, you know, I know we were focusing a lot on Fair Oaks for Measure R because that's what we were limited to, and we weren't going to touch those Measure R funds for Fremont or Meridian. But it seems like depending on the ruling with Metro and how those funds are changed, we would be able to disperse them differently. So I just would like to keep that in mind in our planning for next
Yeah,
year.
I think February, you know, even if it's just, hey, they just met, this is it, we're working with Metro, you know, hypothetically, you know, to see where we're at, we can give you that quick update, and then we can also put it into March when we have a better understanding. Because I think that's the bread and butter for this commission is those Measure R and those types of projects is what you know, is important.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. John, Kim, anything else before I chime in?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, so it's funny. I guess my comment's a bit different than Michelle's on the Measure M. So I noticed discussion in February, Measure M projects. I was hoping that was going to be January, because I know we talked last month about various things, Garrett, you were going to look at and maybe report back hopefully in January about whether it's January or February, it's not a big deal to me. I was more concerned about looking later in the work plan where it says selection of Measure M projects in July. That seems awfully late to me. I would much prefer, because remember, these are projects that theoretically should have already started implementation, but for various reasons have not. So, you know, this is the list we originally had that it was upended, and now we're trying to get a list put back together. So do you know, was it put in July because there's some timing element on the Joint Powers Authority side that's tied to that, or no, it's just July because that's where it seemed to make sense?
Yeah, we placed it in July based on staffing needs and what we believe we'll be able to realistically meet.
Okay.
And
Because I
that'll
know that
make a little more sense when I give you some information during my staff liaison update.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So I was looking at that saying it'd be nice to do that sooner because then it still has to go to council again, right? So that's, and then update on implementation of NTMP, that's August. And I was hoping for something sooner than that for similar reasons, because those are some of the issues near and dear to the hearts of many in town. But again, we can provide our comments to Garrett and Leona, and then we can discuss it maybe more fully next month and finalize it then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because when we take action on it in January, like all of your comments will be incorporated. You'll see, based on everyone's comments, what the new proposed is. But then before you take action, you're always able to amend, the report or the work plan and then approve it pending those amendments, just like the minutes and stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if there's nothing else, then we'll move on. Hearing nothing. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Number 6, our annual report for 2020. Garrett.
So with my short history with with this commission, Liana and I best placed what we felt were the major accomplishments. Now we don't have to only have, I think we placed 3. We could do more if you'd like. But the first is basically, who's on the commission, the liaison, when we meet, and then it's the 110 Fair Oaks Interchange Modification Project, the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program, and then the SB1. So that's what we felt were the 3 biggest accomplishments. If you have other thoughts, opinions, you'd like to add or subtract any projects or things that you would like to include in the report that gets placed into the Commissioners Conference in February, we're more than amenable to accommodate those requests.
Okay, so thank you, Garrett. So in terms of comments and input, should we have look at the same timeline as we have? So comments to you, Garrett and Leona, by the end of business on the 11th, I think is what we said.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And in the meantime, does anybody have anything they want to ask staff or any comments they want to make initially? Kim.
Do we want to call out the attention that's now actually focusing on Meridian and Fremont? Responding to neighborhood concerns and the only one I had was the Ramona. I don't see that in here. And I know that was presented this last year to the community. I know it's kind of still out there, but I don't know whether that should be also considered.
So I don't, yeah, with Meridian and Fremont, we could definitely add that as a 4th item. And for Ramona, that is in the queue. So I don't know if the short-term measures, like some of the restriping, if those will be completed before January. It's kind of weather-based and how fast we can finish Fremont and a couple other small restriping projects we have, but it is in the queue, I can assure you that. And we're slated, hopefully weather permitting, in January, February to start on that project if everything works out.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle.
I think isn't the only thing that's been implemented from that is the stop sign at Ramona and Rollin. Is that
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Tatovic and I went through it last week and we walked it and are putting a plan together for the other short-term measures to be completed shortly. Like I said, in hopefully late January, early February, we'll be able to do
Do
some
you
of
know
those
what
measures.
those are off the top of your head? Are you doing the continental striping, or is that what?
Yeah, it'll be this similar strategies that we implemented on Fremont and Meridian. It'll be, the things that the maintenance staff can take care of in-house.
Okay.
And I can get you guys a list. I just don't have it with me today.
Oh,
Wait, I think hold on one second. I think John had a hand up.
okay.
Yeah, just very quick. I do agree with Commissioner Kim that we might mention in our annual report our suggestions for traffic safety improvements on Meridian Avenue and on Fremont Avenue. I know after we heard from the community, we had a number of suggestions. And I thank you, Garrett, and others on the staff for considering them and looking into them. That was a high profile community meeting that we had, so I think it would be good to include that in our annual report.
Thank you, John.
And, thanks, John. The staff, Tatovic especially, and the maintenance staff worked very, very hard to get that expedited. So the big congratulations is to them.
Thank you, Tatovic. I want to make sure she's acknowledged. Kim.
One last one was, what about the stop sign on Milan and Oak?
Oh, Meridian and Oak.
Meridian, no, Oak,
Mylan and Oak, we took care of a couple years ago.
Oak and Milan, right?
That one was done before, I
Yeah, it's
think,
Meridian and Oak is the one you're thinking of, right? The controversial one.
but it hasn't been, that one.
No, but there's the one on Milan, right near Milan and Oak, near, not far from Fletcher.
That was put in.
Right, I know, that's an accomplishment.
Oh, I think that was
That was prior.
before. I think that was the prior commission, prior year.
Are you sure?
I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay.
I mean, we can certainly take credit for it if you want, but I think.
Well, the people
I
around there are really happy about it, so.
yeah, no, I've been, and we might have actually in our prior report. I think we might have. I just want to make a comment about Ramona. So I don't, and I think this came up. I think it was Joanne Knuckles made a comment about it at our last meeting, that the Ramona plan was a plan that was never formally presented to the prior commission, or I think this one. So I agree with Kim and Michelle that it's important and something that needs to be addressed. I'm wondering though, it would seem to be less of an annual report issue because we've never acted on it as far as I know. We've never formally reviewed it or made recommendations like we did for Meridian and Fremont. So I'm wondering, assuming I'm right, which is, possible, that does it make sense to have that agendized so that staff can present that plan to us and tell us what's going on and what they're doing? What do you think? Silence.
Is it-
I think the only time I saw it presented was when it was presented to the community
Right.
in a meeting and then nothing else.
Michelle.
Yeah, I know, I mean, I've brought it up a couple times in commission meetings in the past, and we've talked about it for sure, and talked about certain items from it, but it was never presented to us. So.
I mean, I'd really like to see it. Sorry to interrupt you, Michelle. I was just going to say,
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, I definitely think, like I said, with the stop sign and I would like to know what from the study, besides the crosswalks, is being planned to be implemented. And I think since we have talked about it in our meetings, that it could be included in this annual report to an extent of, what's being proposed possibly, or, that it's in progress. But I think it definitely should be presented and agendized, I think.
okay.
And
So sorry, Kim, go ahead.
Say to add an adjunct to that, I think one of the issues that's come up a number of times from the community is wanting to make sure where things stand before schools physically open again.
Mhm.
And make sure that, that it's been thought out and strategized and everything, in consideration of those steps we would take, stop sign, et cetera, in lieu of the schools opening. And I think it was brought up at the time of that community meeting, the change in particularly for the high school, the new hours, because schools now I think it's 8:30. They can't start before 8:30 in high schools. So that changes the dynamic potentially of traffic and timing. So that was something else that was talked about in that community meeting about how is that going to impact the timing and changes and all of that between the various, Holy Family, the high school, everything that's going on in those corridors right there in Ramona.
So Garrett and Todovic, what do you guys think? And I'm sorry, Michelle, I'll get to you in a sec. What do you think about putting that on for example, our January agenda for you to, I mean, the plan's already prepared, right? And you have a list of projects that you're planning to do. So simply, agendize that for January so that we can see it and see what you're thinking and provide comments. Do you think that is reasonable?
Yeah, I think that's something I can discuss with Public Works Management, and we can get on the agenda if approved.
Okay.
I don't see any issues with that.
Okay,
Can I
thank
have
you.
a quick question about that? Have the improvements already been determined, or is it still in progress?
So from what I understand, reading through the report, the recommendations are there and the report is complete, correct, Tatovic? And then when Tatovic and I went through it, we kind of marked it up and met with Shahid, kind of going over what we thought, what has been done, what needs to be completed, what we could complete in the near term future. So we've discussed it. And we just haven't taken action yet because of the other projects being in front of it.
So I'm trying to figure out if this comes to us as an action item or as an information item. I mean, it sounds like your recommendations are still have not completely gelled yet. Is that correct?
Let me discuss it with Shahid and kind of get some more background information so I could give you a better answer to that question.
Okay, because I would offer, if it's too late to change the recommendations or modify them, at least we want to be informed as to what they are so we know what's going on in the community.
Right. Yeah. So we'll discuss it and then we'll bring it back. We'll put it on the January agenda either as an action or informational, depending on where it is in the process.
Thank you.
Michelle.
I was just gonna chime in on to what I remember from the initial presentation from the consultants is that they were recommending a later start time or a staggered to be able to, but I think at that time that was one of the ones that wasn't going to be acted upon. It wasn't as much of a priority. It was something that's further down the line. The other one that was also part of the plan was one of the ones that we kind of turned down from Measure M. It was the reconfiguration of Diamond, the crosswalk area at the head. But again, that was one of their, it wasn't one of the pressing ones. It didn't have an urgent need. It was a down the line one, while there were about 4 or 5 other items that were much more pressing to work upon now, which one of them was the stop sign, and then it was Continental crosswalks, and I believe a couple other improvements along Fremont. Maybe, Garrett, I don't remember if there was one on Meridian or not, if they addressed as far as Meridian. But so it would be good to get a new breakdown of kind of what Shahid recommends that we move forward with from there, what the plans are to move forward from that top list. But that was part of my outreach, since I was part of that presentation. Of the one thing that I saw on our plan to move forward with was one of the more long-term things and none of the short-term. So yeah, I think everyone wants to know what which of the recommended items we're going to move forward with first, now that the other one is off the table.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Garrett. I was just saying thank you to Michelle and John. I agree with their comments, and to the extent anybody cares about my opinion, I would suggest it be an action item, because this plan, right, never went through a commission formally. And I know there have been comments made, like Michelle said, we've never actually formally seen it or opined on it or commented on it. And I know it went to council as a receive and file, and that was it. So they haven't really done anything on it. So it might be productive if it's presented to us as an action item, saying, here's the plan that was prepared by the consultant. Here's what we're planning to do, whether it's short-term or long-term or something in between. And then you can get feedback, comments from us. And then, because I think it might be helpful for you, for staff. I mean, we serve a lot of functions on this commission, I think, and one of them is, if something's brought to us and it's publicly noticed and agendized and we discuss it and act on it, that maybe gives you a bit more support from a community perspective. If people start saying, well, wait a minute, I didn't know, I didn't have any chance to opine, where's this coming from, who's reviewed it, that kind of thing. And it's not that I don't trust you and Tatovic and all to do the right thing, because you guys are awesome, but it might be a good idea to be an action item, but I guess you can discuss it internally and we'll go from there. Anybody else with thoughts on Ramona or anything? I think we're still on the work plan, anything work plan related. Okay. All right. So we will move along.
We were on the annual plan.
Annual report. You're
Annual
right. Thank
report.
you, Michelle.
Yeah.
At least you're keeping track. Living in the past, as always. Sorry. Thank you, Michelle. So if there's nothing else on the annual report, item 6, we'll move to number 7. So we're now in the commission-led discussion section of our meeting. COVID-19. So that's typically Michelle and Sam. Sam is not with us, unfortunately. So Michelle, could you bring us up to date on what's happening and anything that maybe we can provide support on or input?
Well, it's a little empty on the streets for good reason right now. Yeah, I can give you an update. The biggest thing right now is kind of planning for the near future. We know we're in a more severe lockdown as of now, and definitely I've gone out to the kind of the business district first to see how they're doing, and sales have dropped because of it. The outdoor seating definitely did help that we put with the initial phases of alfresco. So it seems with the rollout that's been presented for the vaccine that this definitely is going to be around for a while. When outdoor dining comes back, that will probably still be restricted to outdoor for at least, quite a few months. So I know that as far as updates with that, I know that alfresco, we had the final phase, which was to hopefully push out to get more space for the restaurants and possibly do what, Sam and I had worked on that initial plan of the modifications. And then it looks like through Metro and Active SGV that we have access to some funds that we're going to be going to an event. So Active SGV has been working with the city. So we'll know probably more about that in January as to some of, what those funds can be put towards. I know they're restricted with Metro of how they could be used. So I think some of the things that have been proposed are retractable bollards on Meridian and Mission, and to a way to add additional parking back to Mission with the diagonal spaces, and doing a temporary street reconfiguration to support that. And I think a few other measures I know we had talked about here in a couple of the other briefings when I've talked with COVID about some additional wayfinding for the other parking in the cities that's easier for people to find. That also, I believe, will fall under being able to use with these funds. And I mean, that's about it. It's kind of, and in the interim, I've been working on some more community-based projects of how to utilize that alfresco space in a COVID-friendly way until outdoor dining comes back. So we're trying to, we've been talking with Chamber, and they've been talking about maybe pulling Spark into it as well. One of the things that I've implemented with a couple of the businesses that were open to it was to put we started on our block, it's called the Misfit Tree. It's like a little free library, but it's a tree that you bring an ornament and take an ornament. And it really kind of took off, and a lot of the people that were on walks did it. And we noticed that a lot of the families were coming back 3 or 4 times a week. So somebody else donated another tree. So I took it up on a Mission in that alfresco area, and we launched it with Tomorrow, Crossings, and Hodgson's as the hosts for the tree. And it's been driving some more pedestrian traffic to the area, but it's a great idea because it doesn't have them linger. It gets them up, gets them window shopping, reminds them of all the local businesses that they could shop at, gets them out and exercising, using that extra space that, now is a great, really wide sidewalk for people to keep 6 feet distance. So it would be great if anyone else, you can email me if there's any other ideas. I think that the thing is to think of ideas that don't conflict business-wise. We don't want to bring new vendors in those spaces because we need the business to go to the vendors that are already there. I had an idea of reaching out to other organizations because people were looking for places to drop toys for kids and things like that. But we're all short of volunteers and nobody wants to sit and put themselves at more risk. So these type of ideas like the tree is a great unmanned project. So more ideas like that would be welcome. Yeah, but I think it's all about just utilizing, it's a nice safe space for walking. I think it's a good way if we can get people out and walking in that district, it benefits everyone. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Michelle. Kim.
I just wanted to tell you that I have an idea because I did it last Friday. KFI radio at 5 a.m. has wake up call, and they've been trying to salute small businesses. So last Friday was the first Friday they had done the morning show at 5 a.m. to 6, where you could call in and promote businesses, small businesses. So I got in and promoted the Dinosaur Farm and Mama's Pizza and said, come see South Pasadena. But they're going to do it again this Friday. So if somebody wants to call up, I don't want to be the same person because I'll recognize the name and stuff. But call in and recommend a South Pasadena business or more, farmers market, everything. Then they'll take the call, and it has a big audience.
Yeah.
So just an idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think, if we could do, I know the way al fresco, the businesses who are using it are very thankful that it's in place. The only issue is that it is such a slim area to use that now that we are entering in the rainier season and that it's really not even enough width to put a standard tent up with it being level, or else they've also had issues with, the space being shared for heaters. So if we could go through to that next phase, I feel, oh, I'm frozen?
No, I was frozen.
If we could go through to that if we could have the commission support on that next phase, I think it benefits to give more flexibility of use of space of the people that are using it now, but then it also benefits the problems that the initial phase had with some of the retail patrons, which is that, they have taken parking. So if we can do this next one by putting the diagonal spaces, it would replace the parking that was taken away on Mission. So, so I think it would be a win-win in that sense. And like Kim had said earlier in the meeting, there is still less road traffic. So I think taking away the lane temporarily won't have that much of a significant impact in the short term.
Michelle, 2 quick logistical questions. And if you said them and I missed it, I apologize. What's the name of the grant that Active SGV is actively pursuing? Is there Metro something grant or?
I think it's a appropriation of funds. Really, it's basically from the Arroyo Fest event. So to do everything that Active SGV is kind of presenting and recommended, it's around 300,000, which is all included within that. It was a big event. We were shutting down the 110 freeway to traffic.
Oh, wow. And what's the timing for our submittal?
We have to spend the funds by June. So you saw give an example of the process of how things go. I mean, what was Measure M was decided by July. So I think this takes, we'll have to definitely move fast and push forward if everything's going to be agreed upon to put, the next phase in process. I mean, the good thing is that with Margaret and Joanna, I think they had it kind of phased out as far as the alfresco portion. And Dr. Schneider was really pushing for something to happen on Meridian. So hopefully the groundwork is in place for the bollards for that too. But it gives us a chance to use money that's not from our budget to do something, especially with the bollards, that will really benefit us in the long run for farmers market.
Right. So then part of the reason I was asking about the timing is I'm wondering, is this something that we should be considering? It doesn't sound like there would be much for staff to do in terms of the initial work, because it sounds like there are all these other folks involved that are doing that. But a timing for when we would want to or should be taking some kind of a look at this. Because I know it's got to go to council, right?
Yeah, Garrett, I mean, that would be a question for Garrett. I think active, like I said, I know active SGB, and I think Wes was a little bit more on top of all of the details of this, but I think there's a meeting this week with Public Works and Sheed, and Garrett, you probably know a little bit more of that, but I mean, I would think that this definitely would need to come back next month to be talked about again. Hopefully some more progress has been made as to what are, the city's options and what they feel is possible.
Because I think,
right, Garrett?
Go ahead, Garrett, sorry.
I'm aware of the bollards. I have meetings, I've had a couple meetings, and I have some meetings later this week regarding that project. So that is moving forward. My personal knowledge about diagonal parking or taking lanes on Mission is limited to what you've informed me of today. So I'll follow up.
Okay.
Because I was just going to say that assuming the city council has to pass on this, I'm sensing that they'd probably want to hear what we'd have to say. And my comment earlier about staff was this, the last thing I want to do is try to dump another hurry project on Garrett and Tadevik and your team. But I just wanted to make sure we had some opportunity. I mean, we can certainly do it during these COVID discussions, but it sounds like if there's going to be some plan, and you're talking about some pretty impactful things that I think are pretty exciting, but could be controversial, perhaps,
Yeah.
that city council might want us to have some input on it before they pass on it. So I'm just wondering if that makes sense, then when should we be thinking about having this on an agenda? Next month, I'm guessing.
Yeah, let me
Yes.
follow up, and I'll get some advice, and we'll proceed accordingly.
Yeah,
Great.
what does make it hard is that since this is my last meeting, depending on if I'm available to meet for next month, their effect, and Sam is also the second person on the ad hoc for COVID, that you won't have an ad hoc for COVID next month, which makes it a little difficult. I mean, I will be happy to update all of you on it to take a place, but maybe that should be decided tonight of who will take over the COVID ad hoc, since it will be something that is going to be ongoing. And
So two thoughts, and I'm glad you're bringing it up. So, because things are changing. So, right. So Sam and Michelle are sort of officially leaving the commission as of this meeting, the end of this meeting. But from a logistics perspective, there may not be reappointments before our next meeting in January, in which case my understanding is at least Sam, if he so chose, and I'll do a little arm twisting, will be able to return until he's replaced. and hopefully you too, unless there's this, restriction against being on two commissions at once, in which case that would be unfortunate, but at least Sam, I think Sam would be able to carry the torch at least, into the next year. And then once we get our new members, maybe that may be the right time to talk about a new COVID ad
Yeah,
hoc. I don't know.
I mean, as long as Sam is there, that would be fine.
Yeah, and I remember in the good old days when we had live meetings, from time to time, we would have presentations by outside folks on various topics and issues. So maybe that's something we can just think about. Michelle, if you're not able to come back as a commissioner in January, maybe you can come back as a presenter, as part of it. So that's something to think about.
I'd be happy to.
Sorry.
I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
It kind of crosses between both of my, passions and concerns of the small businesses and the streets. So, it's something that I'll still be working on, regardless if I'm on the commission or not. So I would be happy to still present. And the businesses really aren't getting any aid, and it's not like we can give them aid through this money in any other way. This is the best we can do to help them at this point.
Okay, great. Garrett, I think were you gonna say something?
I'm gonna follow up on and get clarification on all these items, and you'll see in the next agenda what we can and can't put on it.
Great. And I would invite Garrett, if you want to have conversations with whether it's Sam or me or whoever before about some of these logistical things, for the agenda, that might be helpful too. But I know you got to check with Shahid and the team. So thank you I know this list is getting longer and longer, things you have to check on.
No, not a problem. That's what I'm here for.
But we appreciate it. We appreciate it very much. Okay, so as long as, does anybody else have anything they want to share on the COVID-19 ad hoc front? All right, hearing nothing, as long as I haven't lost my place again, it looks like we're on item 8, which is the also something that Garrett added to the agenda at my request, which I appreciate, so that we could talk about it, and which is the SR 710 Mobility Improvement Projects Ad Hoc Committee, which is the eminent John Fisher and myself. And I asked John, and he was kind enough to say yes, if he would please update the commission on conversations he's had with agencies over the past month or so to bring us up to date on things like what Kim mentioned earlier, which is of course the loop ramp, and Measure R generally. So with that, John, if you would please.
I believe we have a public comment before you get going.
Oh, sorry. I should have
No
asked.
worries.
My apologies.
I just have one. It's from Joanne Knuckles. Dear Commissioners, I feel it is premature to move ahead with the traffic study at this time related to the SR 110 interchange for the following reasons. One, attached letter to Metro from 30 groups, many that we have worked with over the years, the SR 710 freeway and toll tunnels, and continue to work with. The letter speaks to Metro's process for modernization of criteria for project funding. We need to see how this mode and subsequent guidelines will affect our proposed Measure R projects moving forward. Number 2, because of the pandemic and the subsequent shutdowns and decrease in traffic and revenue, Metro, no one knows how 2021 will shake out related to transportation. I am not concerned. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second. My document is cut off, so I'm not exactly sure what the word is. I am not, maybe it is concerned. Measure R money will not be there, because it will, but more than timing and possible. Let me read it from the email. Okay, so it says, because of the pandemic and subsequent shutdowns and decrease in traffic and revenue, Metro, no one knows how 2021 will shake out related to transportation. I am not concerned that our Measure R money will not be there, because it will, but more that timing and possible variation on the project list should be looked at related to the future traffic flow. Number 3, because of meetings with Metro and Caltrans, the current loop ramp proposal needs further refinements. This is the most important component of the intersection to improve traffic flow. I understand from Metro that there is not a rush to move forward with the discussed traffic study at this time. I hope the commission considers the issues above. When more information is available, consider the scope of work for that study. That it possibly be broadened to include the whole north-south corridor through town, which would include residential neighborhoods that suffer from Pasadena stub traffic, not just Fair Oaks. There is an attachment, and that will be included with the posted minutes.
Okay, thank
That's
you,
all that I
Leona.
have. You're welcome.
All right, well then we'll close public comment. Thank you for reminding me that there was some. So with that, John, if you would please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Abelson. I think the public comment from Ms. Knuckles was referring to an item on the agenda for the City Council tomorrow, item number 17, regarding allocating $200,000 in funds to do a study of the alternatives and to get a baseline of the traffic volumes and the impacts of different alternatives for the Royal Seco Parkway and Fair Oaks Avenue interchange. And Chairman Abelson asked me to comment on progress that we've made regarding the loop on-ramp. So they're related items, somewhat different items. I'll comment on what we've accomplished thus far with the loop ramp concept. Councilman Schneider organized a phone meeting or a Zoom meeting a few weeks ago while I was still a councilman. Included in that meeting were the city manager. I believe you were there, Larry, weren't you, on that call? I thought?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm someone of them.
Joanne Knuckles was invited, and I think Dick Helgeson, both of whom were on the former Freeway and Transportation Commission, and they had the institutional memory. It also included several staff members from Metro and several design people from Caltrans. So the purpose of the meeting was to kind of bring all the parties together to say, we need a concerted effort. We need to work together. We need to look at this loop ramp alternative and what do we have to do? And there was some discussion of that. But at the end of the meeting, there was a sense of cooperation. Caltrans advised, said they would look at the loop ramp concepts that were developed by HNTV, the firm of HNTV with Yoga Chandra, who had prepared the two design alternatives. And we had given that to Caltrans and asked them to evaluate it. We knew upon submitting it to them that it didn't have every detail identified. It wasn't a final project that you could, a final design that you could go out to award a contract for, but it did identify the key parameters of trying to fit a new loop ramp within the right-of-way. Caltrans came back a couple days ago and said, well, we looked at it and we feel that you may not meet the highway design manual standards in these different areas. I responded back, can you cite the specific sections of the highway design manual that you believe need further review or would be violated? And they came back today and identified some sections. I haven't had time to go through them. In reviewing what they identified as deviations from the standards, many of them related to the fact that the on-ramp is not designed for 50 miles an hour. And I think all of you have seen the drawing where it's kind of a tight circular loop onto the freeway. And many of their comments emanate from that observation that it is not designed for 50 miles an hour. It's designed for 20 miles an hour as you go around the turn, but then you can accelerate. So that was helpful. I think the next step in the process, though, would be to keep this on the fast track and for the city to utilize the $6,000 in funding that I think the council approved which was left over from Councilman Schneider's political action committee or political fund, and that has been, he wanted it to be donated to continue design efforts on this project. And given the 14 comments that we received from Caltrans, we will need to look at each one of those issues, and we will need to have a on-call designer on board to work through it. I'd be happy to work with them directly using my design knowledge, but this is what we'll have to do. That would be the next step in the process, to utilize the $6,000 that has already been approved. And maybe there would need to be another allocation of funds, maybe up to $25,000 to continue that work. So that's where we are. That's where we are this far.
Right. Thank you, John. That was a great report. Does anybody have any? Oh, Garrett.
I have a quick question for you, John. I have worked on that freeway and when I worked for Caltrans, and I know that there's nothing standard or 50 miles an hour on that freeway. Is that maybe a point we could make, saying there's already mini ramps on this freeway that don't meet 50 miles an hour, since it's one of the first freeways ever built? Is that an angle we could pursue?
Absolutely, but it's going to be an ongoing effort, and we can never let our guard down. You're right. I think the freeway itself is designed for 45 and 50 miles an hour. So how can you expect the circular design of the on-ramps to be as high as the freeway itself? Yes, we will have to craft a justification for each thing. As you know, Garrett, and as I've worked with many people from Caltrans, I respect their expertise, but as you know, they are process oriented because they have to have designs that are justifiable because they face a lot of tort liability claims. And so that's where they're coming from, and we just need to understand their perspective on things and know how to address them. So I think a lot of these issues can be addressed, but we will need the services of an on-call designer to help us proceed through that effort. And I would think that would be the next step in the process versus what is on the agenda for tomorrow's council meeting, which would start the circulation studies and the alternatives analysis, which I think eventually needs to be done, but I don't think you want to do it ahead of knowing whether your loop on-ramp alternative is going to ultimately be feasible. And I think that's the effort we need to concentrate on to make sure that we've got our ducks in order before we proceed ahead with the circulation study.
Thank you, John. Kim, Michelle, anything you'd like to share, ask, comment on before I dive in? Kim?
Well, just that I think that there's an argument to be made that John has alluded to about the historical nature and keeping the new ramp in the same sort of design and integrity of the freeway itself from its historical nature, knowing that it's a parkway and it got rededicated as a parkway, about 10 years ago now. And that, asking for 50 miles an hour seems a bit out of character for the freeway, for the parkway itself. So I would think there'd be some historical integrity that could be put as part of the argument, and the historical and cultural to say, doing a ramp that's 50 miles does not match the character of what's there.
Thanks, Kim. Michelle?
Kids were laughing too hard.
nerve.
I agree with John Fisher that from the report that we should definitely push forward with the 6,000 funds that are available to further the design. I feel like what I understand from Joanne's comment is is kind of what I was alluding to in the schedule for the work plan of 2021, is that depending on what Metro decides about Measure R funds, is that we may have an opportunity to spend some of those funds in more wide, toward, widen it to projects on Meridian and Fremont, more north-south corridors that didn't necessarily fit under the existing guidelines of Measure R funding. But if it opens up, we could start thinking about some other additional projects. So I understand why she may not want to rush forward in a study based on that. And I do agree with that. I also had an issue with the study because the study is measuring the traffic during a COVID situation, which is we know is still going to be the case. But I don't want it to have an issue with us getting the funds, which I know was also another aspect. But that's a question for Garrett. Now with the new negotiations about the use of Measure R funds with Metro, would that give us an extension with how we, when we come to a conclusion or do the studies or present what projects we want to move forward with? I think we have the potential to still do the ramp as well as other projects, and I'd like to not, funnel it just with what we were originally, which was just looking solely on Fair Oaks to use all of the funds. Do you know any updates with that, or how, if that affects any of the timelines for funding?
I don't know, but Metro is a good partner with the city. So I think we could, that's a question we could ask, and I would, we'll see what they say. But in the past, they've done their best to help accommodate us with our requests.
Mm-hmm. So I just wouldn't want to study limit the study to one area if the funds can actually be used for other areas in the city as well. But I think we should still push forward with the ramp as well as, what we had talked about and agreed upon in the past. So that would be my only question and suggestion on
Thanks,
that.
Michelle. Oh, sorry. So two concepts. So the first one's this more specific one. So with regard to the additional work to do on the drawings for the loop ramp that John mentioned, right? So that originally Councilmember Schneider's discretionary funds of $6,000 were authorized to work on the loop ramp draft. I guess the original draft was done without the need to expend those funds, so they're still available. And Garrett, and maybe I need to check with Shaheen and report back, but the sense is that we want to proceed, right? The loop ramp is an integral part of the Measure R projects from, way back when, continuing to date. And so we want to proceed with trying to address Caltrans issues and concerns. What do we do to access those funds and move forward with this additional design work? Do you know?
I'm not clear on what we could and couldn't do, so I'll work with Shahid and
Okay.
Formulate a response.
And so what I wanted to actually suggest in this regard, is we have this ad hoc committee of John and myself. I've been on a lot of ad hoc committees in the city. I've been on just commissions, but I would like to, and maybe we can discuss with staff offline, but I'd like to set something up where John and I can have a meeting of the ad hoc committee, and I know it's the two of us. And if there are folks, members of the public, whether it's some of the folks that John has mentioned that have been participating in these conversations with Caltrans or others, that they have the opportunity to meet with us, at least virtually. I know in the old days of when we had an ad hoc committee, we'd meet in the city manager's conference room, right? And people would show up and we'd have conversations. I know that's not so easy anymore. But I'd like to do that, or try to consider setting something up. And again, not something that requires staff reports and staff time and all that, but just so that we can have a time to meet and have the other folks involved meet with us to discuss proceeding with the additional design work and some of these additional thoughts and comments on Measure R, so that we can sort of come up with some process or plan for moving forward. Because I think the way it is now, it's like we have staff moving in one direction, and then we have this group, meeting with Caltrans and stuff that is sort of working on their own thing. And it'd be nice if we were sort of all moving together on the same page. So was that a hand, Michelle? Okay. So just, so if this makes sense, maybe we can talk offline or communicate offline later about setting something up for next month, so that John and I can meet with whoever might be interested to talk about that. Does that seem possible?
Yeah, I think we can the three of us can discuss it, formulate a plan, and
Okay.
I can present that to the management and see what's feasible.
Okay. Thank you, Garrett. Another item on the list. John.
Yes, but Garrett, my understanding is the council approved the $6,000 for use in having an on-call consultant to help us in this effort to answer these questions from Caltrans. Do you know the status of that, or if an effort is underway to have a sole source on-call contract?
I haven't heard of the allocation of the $6,000 fund until you brought it up tonight. So let me follow up and see what we need to do. We may be able to encumber that into an already existing contract we have with a design consultant, and we can, track the hours differently. So there's probably a couple ways we could handle it, but let me discuss it and see what the best way to proceed is.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that because we can't really talk constructively with our colleagues in Caltrans till we have that firm on board.
Michelle.
Yeah, Garrett, I'm sorry, I don't know if I was understanding correctly, but is it you already are consulting with the design firm about the ramp?
No, but we have a lot of different designs going on, based on the projects that we discussed earlier, I think for item 3.
Okay.
So we may be able to extend a contract or change it, add on to an existing.
Add on to it with the 6,000. Okay.
Right.
Sorry,
I think
I wasn't trying to clap your attention.
No,
I was trying to kill a mosquito that has been biting me this whole meeting. It's 5-0 at this point.
No. I didn't think you were clapping at me. No, you understand correctly. I want to see if maybe we could take that $6,000 and bring it into another agreement we already have with a design firm, and see if we can best use the money that way. Because if we can, and it's not like a brand new thing, we can kind of use that money more effectively.
And what's the name of the firm that you're working with? Because that sounds like a great idea and would be really efficient and easy to roll the money into. And I know because it was hard initially, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fisher, that when you were first scoping to make the project, that you couldn't really get a firm to commit for just a one-off piece at that small amount. But if they're already in contract for a bigger project, it would seem like they could add that on easier. Is that correct?
Well, the drawing that was prepared was done pro bono by Yoga Chandra of HNTV, and he indicated his firm is very familiar with Caltrans guidelines. And so as you consider what contracts you already have underway, Garrett, do you know if HNTV is among them?
It's not a consulting firm that I've heard, but that doesn't mean we haven't used them. So I'll look and see if I know the work was done pro bono, but if we were to hire them, I don't know if that creates some weird conflict. So I'll have to figure that out with purchasing.
Okay, well, that would be a great course of action, and Larry and I would like to be kept in the loop. as that progresses between now and the next commission meeting.
Yeah, I'll add it, and as soon as I have an update, I'll send you guys an email.
Thank you.
And Garrett, what was the firm that you're working with now that you were thinking it could possibly add to? Do you have a name of that?
We have a couple design firms. I'm not familiar with each company what different kinds of designs. Like I know we have some for for traffic signal design, and I don't know if they have a branch of their company that does, you know, civil for freeway on and on ramps. So I've got to see if they're capable of doing it. You know, if it's something that's in their wheelhouse. I'm not sure, so I wouldn't know which company we may or may not be able to work with.
Okay.
So the other comment I had, which was the less specific one, but that sort of incorporates everything that's been discussed, is the comments by Ms. Knuckles, John, the group, and that relates to the study that's on the city council agenda tomorrow evening. I'm wondering, and I know we discussed it, the substance of it a few months ago. I think it might have been September. Since that time, there have been these developments with Caltrans and the loop ramp design. There have been developments regarding the scope of projects that can be funded with measures M, and in this case R. And I looked at the staff report for the study that's on the council agenda tomorrow night. I think it's item 17, I believe it is. So I'm wondering, hearing what everybody's saying, I'm wondering if it makes sense to be moving forward with a study, which by the way, in the report is it could cost up to $800,000. The report's asking for $200,000 from Prop C money, and then says that $600,000 has already been reserved for Measure R funds. So I'm wondering, there seems to be there are concerns about the scope, and is it properly incorporating, considering everything that we've discussed before and tonight, and does it properly reflect recent developments? Is it going to take into account impacts of the gap and all of these issues? And then on top of that, we have the fact that really nothing can happen right now because of the never-ending challenges of COVID. So I'm wondering if it makes sense for us to think about suggesting that this be, I mean, we're supportive of it and we've already talked about it, but in light of these developments, does it make sense to suggest that the item be postponed? I mean, my understanding is that there isn't a deadline in terms of the city's having to approve this project scope, but Garrett can correct me if I'm wrong. So I wanted to get a sense from the group of whether this is something we should be thinking about suggesting before City Council goes ahead tomorrow night and approves something that it, in given recent developments could be premature or might need a little more thought. Kim.
Well, I think also to add on to what you're saying is that we will have 3 new council members tomorrow night that probably don't have as much, not that they're not capable of understanding and knowing everything that's going on, but I don't know if they have the history, the full background, and they're really up to speed. And they're going to be voting on this kind of a bit in a vacuum, and whether, again, a recommendation to put this off for another agenda and postpone it might make sense, so they can really come up to speed. And maybe our ad hoc committee, yourself and Commissioner Fisher, can brief them on the background and understanding and where things are, because I'm not sure if they're all up to speed on this whole framework and issue.
And it might be helpful for John and I to have a conversation with Shahid about this, because just looking at the staff report, there are a few things that aren't quite clear to me about exactly what the scope is. But one of the key elements is the ramp, but we don't have a final design. But I do want to say that I want to applaud Shahid for moving forward with this, because this is an important aspect of this. And I don't want to, the last thing I want to do is put a, no pun intended, roadblock. But I'm just concerned about moving forward with something if we're not all fully understanding what's going to be reviewed, if we're not clear on it, or there's some open questions, then I think the city council is going to even be less clear. So maybe it makes sense for John and I to have a conversation with Shahid about all of this, and maybe this gets put off until a future, maybe it's the next or a future council meeting, so that we're all on the same page. We all agree on what's being studied, and that the timing's right.
Tativik, can you answer some of their questions to the best of your ability? You're muted.
Tativik, can you hear us? Okay.
I think she's having some technical difficulties.
I know how that goes.
Liana, were you able to make Tativik co-host? Okay.
Yes, she's a co-host.
Okay.
And I can't unmute her.
Okay. Well, in lieu of that, what I know Shahid's had some conversations with council members and the city manager regarding the staff report, and I think the level of comfortability is good. But I will speak with Shahid tomorrow morning and relay your concerns and see if he and can schedule a time to talk with you and John tomorrow.
Okay, that would be great. And well, I appreciate that, Garrett. And I just, what is the sense of the commission on that issue? Do you have an opinion one way or the other about the timing of moving forward with council approval of the revised project study scope?
I would
Kim.
suggest it be postponed so we can make sure that the new council members are truly well briefed about the background, the issues, where we were, where things stand, the Caltrans concerns, all of those things.
John.
Yeah, I first of all, unfortunately, I will not be available tomorrow. I've got some medical appointments I've got to take care of, so I'll be out most of the day. But this isn't something we have to rush, although I appreciate this moving forward. But I think the important point is that we have to know that we have a viable project before we do an alternatives analysis of it. We have to make sure that we're fairly certain that we can get Caltrans to approve it. And therefore, I would suggest we move full speed ahead with this on-call design consultant so that we can resolve these issues. And then at that point, then we can go full speed ahead in allocating the funds to do the alternatives analysis and traffic projections. That would be my preference.
Michelle.
I agree with John in that we should move forward with the design process, but recommend to postpone the study as long as it doesn't affect our funding, in order to be, until we find out more of how we can use those funds. It seems like we would be spending an awful lot of money on a study that then would be incomplete because it wouldn't include other things that needed to be studied. once if the funding changes for Measure R.
So, thank you, everyone. So I guess, Garrett, I mean, this is not a formal action item, so I mean, we don't need to take a vote and all that, but Garrett, if you would please forward to Shahid, maybe put this at the top of the list, given the time sensitivity, our thoughts and concerns. And I want to, by the way, I said it earlier, but I want to emphasize what John said too, which is that we very much appreciate Shahid's work, your team's work on this, and Shahid's wanting to move this forward. And we're all on the same team and want that to happen. We just want to make sure we do it right. And we're thinking maybe there's some additional information we need to secure before we move forward with exactly what the scope's going to be and getting council approval for that, especially when we're talking about a pretty major study that's not insignificant in terms of scope and cost. So, and yeah, and like John, I'm beyond overwhelmed tomorrow, but I mean, if Shahid wants to have a conversation, I could certainly have it, but I think maybe if you can share that with him, maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll talk with him tomorrow and relay the commission's feelings regarding the staff report and your concerns. And then if all of you have time to connect tomorrow, great. If not, we can figure that out as time progresses.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Michelle.
I just had one last question regarding to this, is that if we're kind of in agreement of recommending to postpone this, but we don't have a council liaison tonight, how will that information get conveyed to city council for tomorrow's meeting?
Well, so my hope and expectation. Oh, look who's here.
Yeah.
Hello, Sam.
Hey, I'm glad the meeting's
Welcome.
still going on. I just got through a firing line of 2 hours of questions on an active transportation plan.
Well, your timing is perfect. So we were just talking about the expanded scope of the study regarding the Fair Oaks SR 110 interchange that's on the city council agenda tomorrow night, and we're in the throes of item 8 on our agenda. What we discussed, the consensus is that it seems to make sense for us to hold off proceeding with approval of this revised study scope when we have a number of open questions regarding the loop ramp and whether it's doable or not, and if so, in what configuration. The open issues regarding what measures M&R funds can be used for, and other items. So, and then Michelle made the good question. Well, our city council liaison seat is empty here. So who's going to be the Dr. Schneider to champion this? And Garrett was already kind enough to agree to share this with Shahid tomorrow, to let him know that it's our preference that this not move forward tomorrow night, and that we regroup and then come up with a game plan to have a better understanding of what the scope is going to be. That doesn't detract from Michelle's comment, which is that I guess what I would say is that, I mean, I can certainly, on behalf of the commission, submit something to the council that's excruciatingly brief, and making a suggestion that the thrust of our conversation was that this be tabled until we can finalize the rest of the information and get a complete understanding of what we're going to be studying. So that's a combination of bringing Sam up to speed and answering Michelle's question. Does that make sense in terms of how to proceed? Michelle's leaving.
Good. That sounds good to me.
I guess I have my answer. I mean, right? So
I would add to that, Larry.
Good.
We would move full speed ahead in securing the services of an on-call designer who can help us work through the design issues with Caltrans. that have come up that they said, basically, you know, there's 14 areas where your design would be deficient. So we need an on-call consultant who can help us work through each one of those issues. And you know, that would have to be done first before we do the alternatives analysis.
And
Okay.
to that point, John, and team, does that mean, would that need city council action, and would we have to make a recommendation, or is that funding that Dr. Schneider kind of earmarked, or do we need some sort of action or recommendation? Does the city council need to do something to move forward with getting that expertise that we need, or can it just be an adjustment on a current design contract that we have and add another task item or something like that?
Yeah, my understanding is that the council has approved the funds for that purpose, but I haven't seen that in writing, but I've been told that. And then the next step would be to see how you could award a low-cost contract for those services on an on-call basis. Sometimes it could be sole source if it's under a certain amount and you have a particular design firm that has the expertise you're looking for or that has unique expertise. So there are a number of ways that this might be done. I think the key thing is that this move forward quickly.
So I could certainly put something short together to submit, just summarizing these thoughts and the suggestion that while we're supportive of the study, that has not changed, that because of these intervening issues that we want to resolve, that we suggest postponing it briefly. And you know, the council will do what's going to do, and in the meantime, Garrett's going to talk to Shahid, and I guess Shahid can oh, hello Kitty. Shahid can either you know, support what we're proposing when he does his presentation tomorrow, or maybe they pull it. You know, I guess he would talk to, you know, Garrett could talk to Shahid could talk to Sean, and you know, staff could take a stab at this, or make some effort in it, and then we can also provide some very brief input, or I can do that on our behalf, and then, you know, move from there. I guess the easiest and best thing would be if staff management, i.e. Shahid, agrees with what we're thinking, that maybe he suggests that it be pulled. And if he's on board with that, terrific. And then if not, which is okay, then, you know, he can proceed and share our thoughts to the council and let the council decide. And no matter what, I'll submit my written comments, if that all makes sense. Is that okay?
That sounds good.
All right. Okay, so unless there's anything more on this hot topic, I'll move on to item 9, which is city council liaison communications. Well, that's going to be short and swift. Crickets. Those are the comments. I mean, and I'm being flip, but I'm sorry. Do we have anything from the city, any city council representative, that any input to be read in, Leona, or anything like that? Okay. And then just for the record, the reason we don't have a liaison is because it was Dr. Schneider, and his seat has now been taken up by John Primmett. Then we don't have a new assignment yet. So next is item 10 on the agenda, Commissioner Communications. And if it's okay with everybody, I'll turn it over to our guest star here, Sam, who made a special effort to join us. So Sam, take it away.
Thank you, Vice Chair and Acting Chair Abelson. Thank you for leading the meeting in my absence. And in terms of commissioner comments, I guess my comment is thank you guys so much for being part of this commission, taking your time out every Tuesday to be here to work for this, or not every Tuesday, one Tuesday a month for the city. This is going to be my last meeting as part of the MTech. I'm not seeking reappointment in this coming year. So the pleasure has been all mine, and I've truly enjoyed working with all 4 of you, and obviously city staff as well, Leona, Garrett, Tatiana, and Shahid, and Christine when she was here. So I will miss working with you guys. but it has been great. And I am always happy to be able to help influence transportation policy within our city. I think it's one of the most important things that we can do uh, at South Pasadena. I think one of our trademarks is transportation. The 710 fight identified and defined our city for so many years. And that it's our job to finish that struggle at this MTech level, really push forward those goals of making this a better community, a more multimodal community, a community that supports active transportation and just the whole community. So I'm really excited to see what you guys do, the three of you who are left and whoever gets appointed to the commission, and me and Michelle stay, and what you guys do with obviously the big projects, the 710 projects, the Measure M projects, all of those things that will continue to impact our city long after we're gone, but will always be a trademark for this commission. So I thank you guys for all of your tireless effort and work. Michelle reaching out to the businesses when we had COVID issues and trying to implement that plan. Larry and John working closely with staff to help get that loop ramp completed, and walking the streets of Meridian to talk to residents and be part of those meetings and really walk through Fremont, identify the traffic striping, bot dots, and other elements that I don't know how many commissioners are willing to do that, but it's just been a pleasure to work with commissioners willing to take those extra steps and willing to really do the hard work of a commission. And it's not sexy, it's not fun, it's late nights, but it's important. And so I thank you all for taking this extremely seriously, taking it with extreme respect, and doing a great job in helping this city and its transportation policy and projects moving forward. So thank you all for working with me on this commission.
Well, thank you, Sam. Very nicely said. Well done. I'm just going to go clockwise, I think, based on my screen. So next, and I'll have comments for you, but I'll say them. Commissioner Hughes, anything you'd like to share with us?
Well, first I wanted to thank Sam and Michelle. I'm going to miss you guys. You guys are so knowledgeable, add so much, have such enthusiasm, and it's been a delight and a pleasure. I really want to earmark and spotlight Garrett, because I think you've just been amazing. It has been a true pleasure to work with you. I might be speaking out of school, but at times it's in the last couple of years, we've had our rough patches with our public works. And you are just wonderful and so accommodating and so knowledgeable and so responsive. It's a delight. And Tadevik, thank you as well for your efforts. And it's really been great. And I really am excited about the future and where things are going and the progress we are making. Seeing the signal finally come to fruition means the world, because it's taken so long. But it also is a great badge of that, we persevere as a city, and sometimes we have our rough patches, but we keep our eyes on our goals and do it in thoughtful and meaningful and collaborative ways. And finally, just to wish everyone a happy holiday season. It's been a little bit difficult to see some sunshine in the last 9 months, but there's always something to be grateful for. And it's good to look forward, and the vaccines are coming. So I feel confident that it's going to be a good 2021, and that we're going to see a lot of these projects and come forward. Also, that our businesses are going to come back stronger and better than ever. And just thank you, everyone, for a great year.
Great. Terrific. Thank you, Kim. Let's see. Next on my screen here is Commissioner Fisher. Any comments?
Yeah, just to the first one, I'll get out of the way. I'm wondering if we could use share screen when we go to the different agenda items. Sometimes we'll be talking from a list of projects, or our work plan for next year, or our annual report. Would it be possible to put that on share screen?
Absolutely.
So I don't have to look at my hard copy or mess around and go to two places on my screen, often which I screw up doing anyway. But in addition to that, I'd like to say thank you to Sam for your leadership on your first year on this commission, and for your leadership during this difficult year when we've we've had nothing but virtual meetings, and you've guided us through that and have guided us well. And I wanted to also thank you for your leadership in looking at how we could reallocate public right-of-way to be accommodating to the restaurants that greatly needed help. So thank you for that, and best wishes in your future endeavors. I know you'll be active somehow in some fashion. Wanted to say thank you also to Michelle for your leadership and focusing on the business community and how we can help them. And you've brought us a long way. And we'll miss you. But I understand you're going to another commission, so you'll be around in the city commission family. Also wanted to thank Garrett and Tatovic. You've been really nice to work with and very easy to work with and very receptive to ideas. So we appreciate that. And Leona, I think we've worked together now almost going on 8 years. So you've always been very pleasant. And then with Kim and Larry, we'll continue working together this next year. So just wanted to say a happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you all.
Thank you, Jim. John, I think I'm going to start crying. This is so great. Michelle.
All right. Well, I echo all of Sam's parting thoughts on all the commissioners here, and thank you so much for the, welcoming me in the commission. My first time on a commission. It's a little bumpy start, but I am truly passionate about all of these issues, and it was such a joy to see the equal amount of passion in all of you, and it was just it was a bright spot during all this COVID time, especially this year, of being on this commission, of feeling like, we had still a purpose to move things forward in the face of crisis, and to be able to provide some much needed help to our local community by making the changes on mission that we were able to put in some of the usable space for those businesses, and being able to be part of that has been great. I am sad to leave this commission, but I'm happy that at least I will be on another commission that also I feel like really overlaps to these. A lot of the active transportation and complete street issues that we've been trying to move forward with in our city, and I hope to create a little bit more of a liaison between NREC and MTech on those issues. So the majority of our GHG emissions are transportation. So I will be pushing more of a focus on transportation in NREC. And yeah, you'll be seeing me still a lot. I'll be just individually emailing, calling, and texting, and possibly public commenting because I'm sad to let it go. But thank you for everyone's efforts and working with me on all of my things that I've had concerns about and relayed from the community. And Garrett, yes, I echo Kim Hughes' comment of, you really, when you came on the picture, you're a much needed breath of fresh air for the process, and gave an extra boost of hope and momentum to a lot of our issues. And I know he's not here, but I thank Shahid for a lot taking. I felt like a turn of events with the traffic plan and the neighborhood plan, with taking in all of our feedback. And so I'm proud of the work that we've done this year, and I look forward to the future for 2021. Happy holidays to everyone, and I'll see you all in some virtual aspect for the next 6 months, I'm sure.
Michelle, if I could just add that I was on NREC for 2 terms, 2 terms plus another half term. And people also call me the water lady with working with DWP. And was part of what got Michael Cacciati to actually look at our water system and our rates like 15, almost 15 years ago, I guess, getting there.
Oh, that's great.
If I can ever provide you assistance or help, please do never hesitate to call me.
Oh, I definitely will, for sure. And it is, I'm worried I'm going to be, my other passion besides streets is organic waste. I handled it a lot and got a green award for my handling of waste in my business at Munch. So I'll probably, hopefully my nickname won't be the trash girl.
Would it better to be
Badge of
compost?
honor.
You could make me into like a little raccoon. I don't know.
Well, thank you,
There's a
Michelle.
famous girl in the city of LA who's been famous, who creates an outfit, and it's all with, it was to get the plastic bag recycling.
Yeah.
Covered in plastic bags. She made an outfit and would show up at events and political events to, advocate for banning plastic bags. So
Yeah. Are you suggesting my first outfit for the first meeting or something?
no, but we worked really hard to get the plastic bag banned for the city, and then working on the plastic straw issue. I know that they've been working on that. So
yeah,
there's great support in a community to really be environmentally sustainable.
Yeah, definitely. And that is my goal as much as I know Complete Streets is definitely my #1 passion, but I have a lot of environmental passions as well. And I've already, when we did the plastics ban, I was sought for chamber to help connect NREC with the businesses to help them deal with the transition if it went forward. So I hope that I can be of service in more of those collaborations to make sure these efforts can be more successful and actually be able to be sought through with the businesses, because enforcement's, it's hard with a lot of these, even if they do get passed, if they're really able to be thought through. So yeah, I'm excited, but sad.
Well, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Kim. And everybody pretty much covered everything. And I try not to be too repetitive. I do want to say that for Michelle and Sam, you missed out on Kim's wonderful cookies and other delectables that she would bring to every meeting. So maybe there will come a time where we will all meet in person, or we will have a live meeting. You can come and join us and get some goodies from Kim other than water.
The cocktail party as soon as it's a little safer.
That's right.
My treat.
Amen.
Yeah.
So just
if we can get invited to that, since we missed out.
So I'm just going to quickly. And again, I'm going to go in order. So Michelle, I didn't know anything about you or who you were when this commission was formed. Like, Michelle, who, Hammond, what? And then I asked around and we connected, and then we had some other social connections as well, as it turned out. And I think you're a fantastic person, and you've been a huge asset to this commission, to this city. And the NREC doesn't know what's coming with your joining them, and I think you're going to do amazing things. And I know there'll be issues that overlap, and so if there are ever times where we can have joint meetings, that would be great. So I'm going to miss you very much, but I think you're going to do a great job on your new position. And Sam, I've known forever. It seems like it really hasn't been forever, but it just seems like that because he was on staff when I was on Public Works, and maybe even before commission, dealing with various transportation and related issues in town. And when I saw that Sam was going to be a member of this new commission, I was thrilled because, Sam, you're amazing. You're knowledgeable, you're talented, you're friendly, you're invested, you care. And I'm really thankful that we selected you to be our chair our first year. I think you've been terrific, and I'm glad we got to have you in that capacity before you left us, which brings us to another topic. And we can talk about it separately, but it's possible that you will be invited to join us next month because there probably won't be a chance for you to be replaced. So if you're willing and able, you may get the call. So hopefully if you do, that you're available and hopefully you can join us. And I'm going to miss you both tremendously. You know, we're a family here, and John and Kim and I have been, and Leona have been together for many years, and it makes such a difference to work with folks who are knowledgeable, thoughtful, community oriented, want to do the right thing, and are passionate. And you know, we all have our areas of interest and focus and expertise, and I think it's been a really nice combination. And it's been great. You know, you guys have been tremendous assets, especially on the multimodal, alfresco dining, COVID, et cetera front. And we will certainly miss that and may, you know, reach out to you if you don't reach out to us first going forward. And Kim and Judd, you're amazing and always will be and always have been. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you all and whoever has the, I'll call it pleasure of joining us, I guess probably next February. And Garrett, everybody has said everything that I would have said. It's been so terrific working with somebody that's responsive, that's understanding and wants to help. It's terrific. And you know, Leona's been that for us forever. And she's lovely and amazing. And it's made such a difference having her by our side through all of this. And we're so lucky, and I'm thrilled to have you with us. And Tadevik, I know you the least, and that's probably a good thing for you. But you're lovely, you're responsive, you're doing wonderful things. What you've done for the folks in Meridian is fantastic. And I look forward to continuing to work with you and the rest of the team moving forward. And so thank you all. A very sad goodbye to Michelle and to Sam, either presently or soon. Happy holidays to everyone. And then just a business point. So Sam's, the company for which Sam works, Alta, put together a very interesting, it's just under 1 hour presentation on, it's called Delivering Quick Build Projects. 4 cities share their stories of doing more with less. And I'm gonna, I won't do this to her tonight, but tomorrow I will forward the link to this presentation to Leona and ask her to share it with you all. It's very interesting. Sam, probably you don't need to see it again, but the rest of you, I think it's a very interesting watch. And it's one of the interesting towns that participates is a small one called Manhattan in Kansas. And they talk about how much they've done with so little in terms of creative low build projects that are meaningful in supporting multi-modes on streets and calming traffic. And it's fascinating. Maybe the things that, and I'd like, you know, Garrett and staff, if you get a chance to take a look at it, you probably know a lot of it already, but I think it might be helpful moving forward to keep in mind when we're talking about managing traffic in neighborhoods or whatever we're doing, whether it's the items like Michelle mentioned earlier on mission, ways that we can get things done and doing more with less. And maybe everything doesn't have to be a multi-billion-dollar project, and maybe we can get things done in the short term. And even if they're not permanent, maybe they'll provide some immediate relief and give people a sense of what can be done. So I'll share that tomorrow. With that, I think we have all the commissioners covered, and I guess we'll move to item 11. I have to say I'm a little scared because Garrett mentioned something about, you know, something to come during staff liaison comments. So it better not be negative. Anyway, go ahead, Garrett.
Well, based on all of your your comments, I really appreciate all the kind words and your welcoming me into the commission as your staff liaison. As you know, I don't have the engineering background, but I do try very hard to get things done and make sure that people are accommodated to the best of our ability. So with that being said, it's good and sad news. both of our deputy directors will no longer be with us for Public Works after January. Both Julian and Christine will be leaving the city. So you may have a lot more time with me as your staff liaison. So I don't know exactly how that will impact our workflow and our work efforts, but we did try to take some of that into consideration with the work plan for next year. So it may answer some of your questions. So
Absolutely.
things will not stop, but things may slow down a little bit. So we'll definitely appreciate your patience and all of your expertise and help as I have relied on so far. So a lot of things are up in the air, but I'm very positive that, you know, we'll still get a lot of things done. We're still going to do a lot of good work. And I appreciate all the kind words. And then Michelle, I didn't know you were going to be on the NREC, but that's more of my wheelhouse. So when I am involved with that commission for tree hearings and other things, you'll see me more in my comfort zone with my arborist background and all of that. So, and I do have a background in solid waste and recycling. So it's a little bit more my comfort zone than this commission, but I do very much enjoy our time together, and I appreciate all the patience and the knowledge and things I've gained from all of you. So we'll just continue to work together to make processes smoother and you know, try to get really solid, good projects going forward and keep them moving. So I appreciate all the kind words, and you know, sorry to bring a little bit of a downer towards the end, but happy holidays, and you know, we'll see what the new year brings us.
Well, thank you, Garrett. I and some others may have some things to say too, but I'm a little surprised. I wasn't prepared for that. And we'll miss Christine, and we didn't work too much with Julian, right? Julian. But he seemed like a really nice, knowledgeable, good guy. You know, he was at a couple of our Public Works Commission meetings in its former iteration, and he seemed like a really solid, good guy. So he's going to be missed. And Christine, we've worked with for some time now, and I know she has a new baby, or right? Yeah, she was on maternity leave, so maybe she has some other good things in store for her. So I'm going to miss her as well, and I feel terrible for you and Shahid and all the additional work. And I mean, you know, all we do at every meeting is give you a list of items, and on top of that, you've got 2 deputy directors leaving. So that certainly understand some of your comments during the work plan discussion, and I'm hopeful that you all will, or Shahid will be able to find some suitable folks to help fill in moving forward. I know it takes some time and it's a challenge, but the other last thing I want to say, and then I'll stop talking, is I forgot to mention Shahid when I was making my comments, and you know, Shahid's been terrific, especially in the last, I don't know if it's the word is several or few, but he's been very easy to talk to and work with, and supportive and understanding, and clearly a very knowledgeable guy who's done a lot of great things in other towns, and I know he'll do that here as well. And I know I'm solidly behind him and want to work with him to accomplish everything we want to accomplish. And I just want to make sure he was recognized, because he's just not here tonight, so I didn't think of him. But please let him know, you know, he's very much appreciated and thought of as part of the team. So thank you. And anybody else had anything to say about in response to Garrett's comments? Kim.
Just that we'll really miss Christine, and please give her our best and the best wishes for her on her next adventure of not only parenthood.
It's all positive for both of them. So.
Yeah, and I would say likewise. And also, I'd like to echo what Larry said about Shahid. I didn't mention him because he wasn't in the meeting today, but let him know that we really appreciate working closely with him and wish to continue to do so in the upcoming year.
I will do so.
Okay, if there's nothing further on that item, I think we are at adjournment. So unless I hear an objection, I will wish everyone once again a very, very happy holiday, happy new year, and I look forward to seeing all or most of you at our meeting next month. And I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all very, very much.